One of the things that got me into watches was tech, and not modern technology, but like the old school watchmaking technology. It kind of blew my mind that a bunch of gears and springs and turbo encabulators could keep time, and even the year and the month, the day, date, pretty accurately and mechanically without a battery. Like, what? And this watch, this is not one of those watches. And there was a time, a brief time, where to me, a quartz watch like this, or any quartz watch, was just like, ooh, how pedestrian for someone who knows how to almost spell tourbillon. But I've gone through that growth curve that I think a lot of collectors go through, and not enough collectors, but a few. Mechanical watches are great. They are my preference, but you can do amazing things with quartz watches. Case in point, this new Citizen Tsuki-yomi. There's stuff going on here that you just cannot do with a mechanical watch, and even if you tried to approximate it with gears and turbo encabulators, the price would be an order of magnitude higher, and it still wouldn't do the things. This watch came out a few weeks ago, and it's partly to celebrate the 30th anniversary of the first Citizen atomic watch. Now you might ask, aren't all watches made of atoms? And the truth is, we may never know what watches are made of, but that's not what atomic means here. There are 3 variations of this watch with gray, blue, and red dials. They each cost $850 and use titanium for the case and bracelet. Super titanium, which is supposed to be super scratch resistant, which makes these watches very light. On the full bracelet, this weighs about 98 grams, and sized for my 7-inch wrist, it weighs about 95 grams. The case is 43 millimeters across, 11 millimeters thick, and 48 millimeters long. It has 22 millimeter lugs and a water resistance of 100 meters. Those dimensions, especially that diameter, when I measured it with my discount calipers, I had to double check the numbers online. This just doesn't feel like 43 millimeters to me. I guess when I look at the photos and the video, I see it, but the lightness of the watch totally tricked my brain, which honestly is not that hard to do. Because on my wrist, this thing it's barely there. And for some people, that's great. For other people like to feel a weight of the watch on their wrist. But I kind of think that those people might prefer a mechanical watch anyway. So this is not for them. Because the star of this show is really the new H874 movement. Citizen has been on the cutting edge of quartz technology for a long time. They make possibly the best light-powered watches in the world, and the most accurate, like the Caliber 100 movement, which is accurate to 1 second per year somehow. Computers, man, like wow. And this light-powered movement can be that accurate too, but not for the same reason. This is where the atomic thing comes in. There are 5 atomic clocks in the world that broadcast radio signals telling the exact time to any device that's listening. 2 in Japan, 1 in China, 1 in Germany, and 1 in Fort Collins, Colorado, USA. That's where this watch is getting the signal. That radio signal also puts in a tracking chip in everyone's blood and gives them COVID. Every night, maybe around 2 a.m., this watch looks to receive that signal, and if I put it in the right place in my house, it does. And that's one of the downsides of atomic syncing. It can take some trial and error to find the right spot to receive the signal. To find out if the watch recently received the signal successfully, you press the lower pusher, and the seconds hand will move to either no or OK. If the hand is pointing to RX in the middle there, that means that it is currently trying to receive a signal. Pressing that pusher also shows the current power reserve in the 12 o'clock subdial. And this radio syncing not only gets the time, but the day, the date, and for the first time ever, this watch uses that atomic time to set the moon phase. This is a world's first. The first atomic syncing watch with a moon phase. I don't expect that a lot of people have been asking for this, but I can't help but appreciate it. I actually like knowing the moon phase, and not because I'm a werewolf. I don't know how that rumor got started, and frankly, it makes me angry, especially on full moons. What's even more useful to me is the easy time zone changing. Pulling the crown out to the first position moves the second hand to point at one of 24 positions across the top of the dial, 1 position for each time zone. I'm at GMT -8, and I can rotate the crown and choose a new time zone, and the watch will reset to that time zone without losing a second of accuracy. It's a pretty killer travel watch. Setting the time zone correctly will also tell the watch when it should look for that atomic signal in the middle of the night. You can also set which latitudinal hemisphere you're in, north or south. That will set the moon phase correctly. And again, all of this is powered with light. There is no battery to replace, and the watch seems to be very efficient. If the watch doesn't receive any light for a few days, it goes into a power saving mode, and when it senses light again, it'll jump to life and to the correct time. This thing can stay in a power saving mode for up to 6 months without the time ever needing to be reset. You might ask yourself, how more easy could this be to grab and go? And the answer is none. None more easy. Now that's the tech. As for looks, I'm okay with it. It doesn't excite me. The counterbalance on the seconds hand is a bit much, and the placement and angle of the date window is kind of a bummer on an otherwise pretty symmetrical watch. It's too bad. But I do like how the main dial surface looks like the surface of the moon. That's a clever, subtle element, and impressive that dial can have a design and still basically be a solar panel. As for the price, watches are weird. When you look at the functionality of a watch, something like this should be very expensive. Perfectly accurate and self-sustaining, light-powered, comfortable high-tech, but on the other hand, made by machines, very little orological craft involved, mass-produced, not exactly watchmaking artistry. In the context of other photovoltaic watches, this is on the higher side, but I think $850 is pretty acceptable. I also think that if you look around, you'll be able to find these for under $700. And I'm interested to see where Citizen takes this new movement. I could see this working well in a dive watch or like a surfing styled watch with the moon phase. That makes some fun sense. Something sportier would be great. Not that this watch couldn't be used that way already. A quartz movement with 100 meters of water resistance, this could definitely be a perfect daily do-anything watch for a lot of people. And that makes a lot more sense than the dozen overly delicate and overpriced mechanical watches that I rotate through with their expensive gears and springs and turbo encabulators.